All right, welcome back again to the WrestleCord News Break. This is your host Ryan here, and let's talk a little bit about what happened on NXT last night. So we had Sol Ruca getting defeated in a last woman standing match by Zarya. Sol Ruca, as we saw on Monday Night Raw, is now moving up to the main roster as a part of the Raw brand. She ended up taking a very nasty bump at the end of the match, falling through two tables. Tables not stacked, but set side by side. She ended up crashing through the one table, but her head just really cracked on the other table. It looked like quite a nasty fall. We have not heard any serious injury updates in that regard, so it looks like she made it out of that relatively unscathed. We also had Joe Hendry, another guy who is being moved up to the main roster. It looks like he's going to be part of the Raw brand, and he ended up taking quite a beating by Keanu Carver, during the midst of that show. So another NXT roster member being sort of written off the show there. And then, of course, we also have another NXT star that we talked about yesterday moving up to the main roster who we saw in Raw in the form of All Ego, Ethan Page. I think a great addition. I don't really know why he was even in NXT. This guy has been a star for years and years now before he ever even made onto the AEW roster. So happy to see him moving up to that main roster. We also had Lexis King, the former Brian Pillman Jr., son of Brian Pillman, winning the Speed title. To be honest, I did not still know that the Speed title was still a thing, but in fact it is. He ended up winning what was a tournament in the finals over EK Prosper. So congratulations to him. He definitely is a second-generation star who is moving up in this business. Another guy that I thought would have done better just going straight to the main roster, maybe in a limited role such as a tag team role. But nonetheless, that's what we had going on NXT. We also found out this week that Big Damo, formerly known as Killian Dane in WWE, has been signed with MLW. This was first reported by Frightful Select. The report claims that MLW plans to use him in a big way. He will be on the part of the Contra faction, and so it looks like he is set to be part of their next tapings that are happening on May 9th in Chattanooga. A little more quick news here. We had some interesting news too, as it seems that Fighting With My Family's star Paige, she was originally part of a documentary that was called Fighting With My Family that was then turned into a movie. It looks like that movie is now being transitioned into a musical, a stage musical at that. This doesn't seem like it's going to make it to film as a musical. I think that would be great as well. So pretty interesting news there. I'm certainly want to hear more about that in the coming weeks. We also had Nick Nemeth making a couple comments about the match that he was supposed to have against MJF that ended up falling through. He would say he said because of certain deep contractual obligations, certain companies might have crossover with certain other companies that we are with, their rival or with a streaming service or a cable company. And because of this situation, and it's debatable, there's a few of them, we have to do the right thing. Now, that was Nick Nemeth actually quoting something that he was told by Carlos Silva, who is the head of TNA right now. And he also, Nick would go on to say, now, it's not going to be a hard choice, but it's long-term, covers their butt legally for everything. Said, I'm crushed, obviously, because it's like you can have the business aspect like, okay, you're right. You explained to me, you showed me the legal basis, why we can't do this right now. But also the part where I was like, this is such a cool thing that's going to happen, because rarely you get these extra special cool moments with different other companies or different other generations, or in this case, both, where you can, it's going to be good and big and awesome and you can just get it done. And I'm absolutely crushed. We'll both still do our parts one way or another, but one way down the line, one way or another, whether it takes months or years, I'm going to make this happen because it was special one to me. So it looks like Nick Nemeth is looking towards a future where him and current AEW World Champion MJF will partake in a match. I'm certainly hope to see that. I know so many folks were disappointed who were going to that show in Vegas. Such an exciting match that just got canceled. And especially after all the advertisements came out, we talked prior on the WrestleCord podcast about how disappointing this is and what a bad look this actually is for TNA. And Carlos Silva being the sort of face out there is taking a lot of the heat for that, whether it's on him or not. Certainly, it is on TNA, as they should not have made these commitments if they weren't going to stick to them. I'm not sure. It seems that TKO had something to do with intervening in this situation, and quite frankly, if I was TNA, I would have rebuffed any of their demands that these cards be changed. I would have insisted that these TNA wrestlers wrestle in these cards, and maybe going forward they could conduct themselves in a different manner, making sure to double check that these matches would be okay. But this was just such a big loss for the wrestling community here, and quite a shame. Now, there's also another piece of interesting news coming out from TKO. We had Mark Shapiro, who was at an event at the University of Alabama, and he would be asked by a fan about what kind of control they have over the creative of WWE. Now, he is the actual CEO of TKO. So he said in response, he said, first off, TKO is complete control, so we're responsible. He then would go on to say, what I will tell you is WWE is growing every way. It's really exploded. As far as the stars part of it, I don't think that's true. Shapiro pointed to the trajectory of The Rock from being a WWE pro wrestler to then becoming a Hollywood actor. He was saying, having Hollywood tie-ins and celebs and stars, Logan Paul, Pat McAfee, Mark Wahlberg shows up and does his thing, or Tyrese Halliburton. Quite frankly, I have no idea who Tyrese Halliburton is. That's not new. It's just on a larger stage. We're spending a lot more money to market the brand, market the content, and when you do that, you're going to win some folks over. But you're always going to chase some folks away. So, I'm really curious to understand exactly how that dynamic works. It seems not so much that TKO execs are in the writing room on the regular or forcing it that all storylines are passed by them, but it seems that they can intervene and change storylines when they feel it is needed. I think this is just a foreseeable conclusion of the TKO buyout. I saw this coming. I thought this was a very bad move for WWE. Of course, the shareholders. Of course, some of the shareholders actually agree. Some of the shareholders disagree. But there's actually a lawsuit. There's a lawsuit going on there with the shareholders of WWE feeling like they didn't quite get all that they could out of this TKO deal. And it really seemed to be something pushed by Vince McMahon, who was essentially told he would be able to stay on with WWE. And in the end, that did not actually happen. So that is going to bring us... Oh, real quick, we did have some news about a UFC star, Rosa Namajunas, who had an eye injury. It looks like she has healed now and is now back to training. So exciting news. She suggested that there should be automatic purse deductions for anyone who is involved in an eye poke situation. I guess giving the eye poke, not necessarily receiving it. So, but good news coming from her Instagram that she is back training now and hopefully headed back to the Octagon very soon. And right now, that will be the end of our news break for April 22nd, 2026. I hope to see you folks again soon.